Okay, Professor Lawler, so I'd like to address this issue of the autopsy again, if that's okay. My question to you, if I want, it's the same one from this morning. Why wasn't it reported in the weekly vaccine report that there was a death from Pfizer vaccine?
So thanks for the question, Senator. We at the TGA have provided on many occasions previously to you and to other senators in questions the processes that we follow in respect of making investigation of causal links, and also indeed in terms of the information that we provide. We've indicated previously that we don't request autopsies or coronial investigations or make formal determinations of the cause of death.
So thank you.
I'm happy to...
Given that you don't, then what right do you have to override their decision and not report it? Or not report their decision?
So just to be clear, Senator, as I've just said, the TGA is not in either a position or the practice of overruling the causes of death that are determined by a coroner or a treating health professional.
Okay, so that's fine. So why don't you
sorry, if I may, I understand that you do ask this question frequently, and I give the same answer each time. I would like to ask Dr. Larter to actually explain how we incorporate that information, but I would just start by saying that we have been very diligent and assiduous in the past to not discuss the personal details.
I'm not asking for personal details. I just want to know why you think that an autopsy report that was prepared by pathologists that examined the body, that you wouldn't report that.
Of individual cases, because that's
no, not the details, but in the weekly report you'd say we've had a death from the Pfizer vaccine.
So very happy to ask Dr. Larter to respond to that question.
Dr. Claire Larter, Acting Assistant Secretary in the Medicines Regulation Division. Thank you for the question, Senator. The TGA can confirm that we do have this case. It's been reported in our database of adverse event notifications and has contributed to our ongoing safety monitoring. As we've previously advised regarding the processes of how we investigate cases, we do not overrule the decisions of coroners or the cause of death. What we do is consider the cases using the WHO causality assessment framework. Where a case is assessed as being causally linked to vaccination, we did publish those in our weekly report. And where cases were considered by a vaccine safety investigation group and they were found not to be causally linked, they were also published. I'd like to reassure you, though, that this case has contributed to our ongoing monitoring, and the risks of myocarditis are accurately represented in the product information for the mRNA vaccines, including the potential for rare but fatal adverse outcomes.
So in your opinion, you don't think this particular case was a death from the vaccine?
When this case was assessed through our processes, and we're very cautious not to go into the personal details in individual cases.
I just want to know, you disagree, you don't think this was linked to the vaccine?
Senator, it does actually... I'm listening very carefully so as not to interrupt the questions you're seeking an answer from, but you know, our scope is very broad in that it goes to the operations and expenditure of government. The scope you're treading into here and the way which would be required for the official to answer the question, I think, is extending outside of that. I'll allow Dr. Larter to continue to answer, but it is reasonable on that basis for her to either take that on notice or not answer if it comes to personal details or personal matters.
Again, I can't go into the individual considerations for a case. What I can say is it has been through our process, which looks at the available information and using the WHO causality assessment framework. It has not been assessed as being causally linked, which is why it has not been published as one of the 14 deaths associated with vaccination.
But also, if I may, Senator, I'd just like to address the use of the word "in your opinion," which I think could be taken to potentially suggest that Dr. Larter or an individual within the TGA is having a look at the clinical case and making a decision based on that. That's absolutely not what has occurred. And as we have demonstrated previously through both verbal responses and questions on notice, there is a very robust and quite detailed process of the assessment of significant adverse events that includes the incorporation of the clinical views of experts from many fields.
Okay, thank you. So how many autopsy reports did the TGA receive out of the 1,000 reported deaths?
As I advised earlier this morning, we do work very closely with state and territory public health units and request additional information on reports of fatal adverse events, which will frequently include a request for any autopsy reports that are available. In terms of the numbers that we have
so that's
received,
fine.
I would
You said that's
take
fine,
that on
that's
notice.
fine.
Senator
Can I get a number?
We need to allow the officials to answer, please. Dr. Larter.
We have previously provided on notice the proportion of cases that have been referred to coronial processes. And again, if you would like us to look
what
at
number is that? Because I haven't asked that
Senator
before.
Rennick, please don't interrupt the witness as she's finishing her answer. I'll come back to you to ask another question. I also remind all we have captions being done to facilitate the participation of people in our committee, and when there's crosstalk, it's very difficult for those captioners to do their work. Dr. Larter, please continue.
We have previously provided that information on notice. If you would like to provide updated statistics on the cases where we have identified that they've been referred to a coronial process, which may not be available for every individual case, we can provide that on notice.
Senator
To me? Because last time someone said they'd given me a question on notice and it wasn't a question I asked. So I'd just like to know what question on notice that was. Can you give me the number?
Senator, we're quite happy to have a look through. We have a record of the questions on notice that are relevant to the questions that are being asked repeatedly. At estimates, we don't always have an indication that they are from a specific senator.
Well, this is the first time I've asked a question about a specific autopsy report that linked the death to the Pfizer vaccine. That's why I'm asking, because up until now, I've never seen an autopsy report that's been linked to the Pfizer vaccine.
So I take that point, Senator. Question on notice, SQ 24000230. You asked us specifically... 230?
Yeah.
24000230 from February this year. You asked us specifically, how can the TGA rule out deaths that died within a week of receiving the COVID vaccine without a proper autopsy proving it wasn't the vaccine? And then there was some commentary about John Skerritt, and the response itself indicated, as we have previously, that we do not request autopsies or coronial investigations or make formal determinations of the cause of death, and then we've listed the 12 times we've answered that question.
Yeah, so this is a slightly different question because I've asked how many autopsies have you received that linked the death to the vaccine. That's what I'm asking for. So you can take that on notice. I don't expect you to
Happy to
give
take that on
now.
notice, Senator.
Okay, thank you.
Authorised G. Rennick People First Chermside.